Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 37. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here on this Monday, Steelers Nation. A victory Monday for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Literally, I think they didn't officially win until early Monday morning, winning in overtime fashion against the Seattle Seahawks in Sunday night primetime football, 23-20. Pittsburgh moves to 3-3 on the season. And Dave, you know, I don't want to get too in the weeds about this game just yet, but watching TJ Watt last night, it wasn't quite to the degree of individual and certainly not the degree of team performance, but it kind of reminded me with, you know, Steelers alumni being on hand of that James Harrison game in 2007 against Baltimore, just taking over a game and just kind of willing the team to victory in a sense. And so TJ Watt, that's why he gets paid the big bucks, and that's a big reason why Pittsburgh is moving on to 500 and feeling pretty good on this Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. He did certainly, take over the end of that game there. And, obviously I haven't gone through the tape of all the other games that transpired over the weekend so far, but you would have to think with the impact that he made in that game, and just not really in the last in the overtime either there, because he had a couple of bat downs there on top of it all. You would think that he's going to be, or has a very, very good chance at being AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and we will obviously find that out, I think, Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday morning they announced that. I'm pretty sure about that. But what a game for him! And man, in key moments, your key players, you hope that your key players can step up and make plays and game-changing plays at that. And he certainly did do that.
Yeah, my terrible take day is going to be on that topic you just mentioned, Dave, that, obviously football's a team sport, and there are games where kind of everybody's kind of contributing equally, but there are some games where you just rely on your studs to make those big plays, and that was Cam Hayward, that was TJ Watt, that was Najee Harris last night for Pittsburgh. Before we jump into the game itself, let's talk about the things that happened before the Steelers inactive list. No practice squad elevation. Should mention, by the way, that on Saturday, Juju Smith-Schuster officially placed on IR, and Zach Banner was activated off of injured reserve after having that setback with his knee injury during the summer, although Banner was not active for last night's game. The 5 inactives were Carlos Davis, Dwayne Haskins, Buddy Johnson, Keller Witherspoon, and Banner. So Joe Haeg became the backup swing tackle, ended up finishing that game at left tackle because Dan Moore left with a hip injury. So Zach Banner active on the roster, but inactive in the sense that he did not get a hat.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by that. I in my prediction, even after in that weekly inactive prediction after Zach Banner was activated to the 53-man roster, I kind of wondered if that would might be the case, and I predicted that Zach Banner would be inactive there because they're coming off of a good game. Thought the core 4 played good against Denver the previous Sunday there, and Joe Haeg can play both tackle spots there, and unless they were going to sit down Dan Moore Jr. for that game, I kind of wondered, and look, you had to have, the other thing that I wondered was, look, you want to make sure you're covered in case somebody had a pregame injury of some sort there, and that made sense for to go ahead and activate them to the 53-man roster, because obviously Juju Smith-Schuster was going to go to IR at some point there, so not overly surprised by that, and we always say, that these things have a funny way of working themselves out, right? When it comes to injuries and all like that, and a couple weeks ahead of things, we say, well, who's going to take this spot? Well, it's just weird how these kind of things kind of, don't worry about it. They kind of work themselves out. And now Dan Moore Jr. going down with some sort of hip injury. Don't know the extent of it. Obviously happened later in the game on Sunday night there. If that's going to shelve him, and obviously the team going into the bye week right now, but at least you have the guys. You can make that work now that Zach Banner is back healthy again.
Yeah, at least you're trending in the right direction with that group, and the overall health of this team got back guys like James Washington. Although I think Washington did not play a ton in this game. I don't know if that's
Hey,
more of the
eight snaps.
Okay, it was early, and then he wasn't playing, so I'm guessing part of that was, they were having McLeod in the slot quite a bit, kept Claypool on the outside, but I'm guessing Washington maybe not 100% with that groin, or maybe just had some sort of issue during the game because he was playing early and then did not play really much in the second half of that game and in overtime as well. Other injuries from this game, it looked like Benny Snell just about snapped his wrist in half on making one tackle on special teams, but he was okay. He finished the game and never mentioned, so I guess no worse for wear overall. Matthew Marks, he told me that it looked like Isaiah Buggs did not finish this game. I haven't gone back through my charting yet to really confirm and chart that stuff, but we'll monitor Buggs. That'll be extra important with Stephon Tuitt still out and Carlos Davis still out, but the bye week coming at a good time for him potentially. So from an injury standpoint, it looks like Dan Moore is the big name to watch. Tomlin did not give an official update on Moore's status after last night's win.
Yeah, it might be a while before we hear about what the health of this team is, because obviously Mike Tomlin not going to talk on, or doesn't usually talk during the bye week, I don't think, on a Tuesday there. So we might be waiting until the following Tuesday for any kind of health update. I think a couple of players are going to meet the media later on today, and then it'll go dark for several days there as far as media sessions go and whatnot. So never a bad time to have a bye week, right? And the Steelers going to get into this one looking like they're fairly healthy, I guess, overall. We'll have to see the Wednesday that they get back to work. Maybe Stephon Tuitt will be ready to resume practicing. Boy, they could definitely use him back there. And Carlos Davis, even though he was inactive this past week and ruled out on the Friday injury report, back limited this past week. So another thing, talking about Isaiah Buggs, and we don't know for sure. I didn't look late in that game to see if he went down and didn't come back either. Should he miss some time, then you would think Carlos Davis steps back into that nose tackle role and starts absorbing some of that snaps there. So the bye is here. They're 3-3, and the way this season started, if you're a Steelers fan, I don't think you can ask for anything more. Now, you beat a team that you were supposed to beat on Sunday night there, and now you have 3 games against the Browns, the Bears, and Lions. Oh my! And quite honestly, 2 of those games you probably are going to be expected to beat in the Bears and Lions, and you've already lost 1 divisional game against the Bengals there, and I think you're going to have the Browns coming in on a long week, because I think the Browns play on Thursday night there, and we don't know how healthy they're going to be right now. But you better win that game as well too. So you got 3 games coming up, and at the worst, you better go 2-3 in them, and one of those wins better be against the Browns.
Agreed. And the reason now why Week 8 against the Browns really matters is because of what happened last night. And they get to victory and to claw your way out of that 1-3 hole. You're 3-3. You're kind of back in the AFC North race to an extent. Baltimore looks like they're going to be the favorites in this one record-wise, but you're just kind of in the AFC picture overall. And so it was an ugly win. I would kind of describe the Seattle game as bumpy. There were a lot of highs, a lot of lows in this one. You're up 14-0. You blow that lead. You give up the game-tying field goal at the end of regulation. You easily could have lost the thing in overtime. So this thing could have went a lot of different ways, but it came out the right way for Pittsburgh in the end. They did just enough to pull off the victory.
Yes, they did, and it was touch and go there in that second half, and this is going to be, and we've talked about it time and time again, this is going to have to be the recipe for how this team wins overall. Now, obviously, there were a few more extra pass attempts in there for one Ben Roethlisberger because of the overtime, I think. How many times did Ben throw in overtime? Do you remember?
In overtime alone?
Yeah, in overtime alone.
I can look at the number here briefly. Looks like 2. Looks like actually just twice.
Okay, so twice there. So had he not gone into overtime, he wouldn't have hit the 40 mark. We keep throwing that 40 number out there, and there was a point in this game about the third quarter where it looked like he was going to soar right on past that 40 number. But 40 attempts overall in total, and I think dropbacks were obviously one or two more than that. And they ran the ball. Let's see, throw out the kneel downs. I think 28 times in total. That's borderline right there where you want it to be for sure. And then obviously you had to have the defense make some plays in there, and they did when it mattered most late in that game. They ran the ball. They didn't run the ball effectively to start with, but as the game wore on, at least from a successful run rate, they ran it better there. And I think what was my final number there, Alex? 13 of 24 successful runs for one Najee Harris. And for the team, I think it was, because I think everybody else that touched the football in a run, Deontay Johnson, Balaj, and Eric Ebron, 4 combined carries there. I think all 4 of those were successful. So that should give them, let's see, what's that?
17 of 28?
Yeah, 17 of 28 overall. And you
percentage.
You take that every day of the week, right? 60-something percent?
Yep, 60.7. So a really strong number, third week in a row for Pittsburgh, having a really good, successful run rate. And yeah, I think in the second half they got better with Najee Harris and got some explosive runs with Johnson and the touchdown to Eric Ebron, which was a really nice play call by Matt Canada. So let's start with the Steelers offense overall and kind of unpacking this thing, Dave. And it started off really well, 14-0. You're 2-2 in the red zone. You did a decent job on third down. It felt good early, and then things kind of, like the whole team just kind of couldn't get in that. They just really couldn't sustain that rhythm throughout the entire game. It was just a lot of fits and starts, and this one is kind of how I would describe the Steelers offense in this game. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't great, but you just had little pockets of where it worked, and you were just trying to sustain that throughout the entire game, and you just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, obviously the first quarter was a bit of a dud, really, for both sides. Not much happened overall there, just a bunch of punts. Overall, you get into the second quarter there, the Steelers finally started to get, the running game started to work a little bit better there. Some more, some successful runs. Had the back-to-back touchdown drives in the second quarter there. The defense did a good enough job, continued to all the way through the first half. I think the Seahawks' longest drive of the first half was 7 points there. So you going in, 14 nothing at the half, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself, and you're thinking, okay, get a stop early, get some more points on the board here. Maybe they can salt this one away. Well, not so fast, my friends, and really going to have to really examine this all 22 tape, because it's hard to see some stuff on the TV tape there. But boy, the Seahawks came out in the second half determined to run the football, and they did it. In fact, their 10-play touchdown drive, I believe 9 of those were runs. And I think of the 10 total plays, 9 were successful. I believe only one of those 10 plays was unsuccessful, and I believe that was like the first or second and goal situation, a run down there that was stopped overall. So they started running it down the Steelers' throat right there, and yeah, the Steelers playing a lot of too high in that situation, because obviously did not want Lockett or Metcalf to burn them over the top there. But, if you're going to do that, you can't let 6, 7, 8, 9-yard runs and take command there. And, boy, the tackling was just lousy really throughout this thing. There were pockets where obviously it was a lot better than others, but there was about probably 4 or 5 plays where just hard to watch because the tackling was so bad there. So, the Seahawks came out in that second half and started to run the football 2 drives right in a row on the Steelers, and mixed in a big play over there on the left side because the run game was working so well, I think. think. I think the Steelers had a run blitz on one of those passes over there to the left side there. And lo and behold, here you are, and you got a new ball game in the third quarter.
Right, yeah, that third quarter was really disappointing overall as a team defense standpoint. I believe Seattle ran 19 or 20 plays in that quarter alone and only had 1 third down, and that was a 3rd and 7, which they ran and converted a 27-yard pickup. So they just were churning up, yards play after play. Yeah, the missed tackles. Josh Carney's going to bill by the hour for that one because, I don't know what the number is. It's probably 15. It might have been 20 missed tackles in that game. I mean, it was just pitiful, and guys weren't in the right gaps, and guys were late to react, and the tackling compounded those problems. Even in the first half, that 3rd and 8 completion they gave up, which ultimately didn't hurt them, but you have, you got the running back dead to right, short of the sticks. You got 3 guys there, you missed 2 tackles, and it's a 27, I think, yard catch and run by, I believe it was Travis Homer, whoever the back was. And so, and then second half, it popped up and it was even worse with the tackling. So the long catch to Gerald Everett, where you got 2 missed tackles on that one, and Everett nearly scores off of that. Right. Super frustrating, unacceptable, and that is one of the big reasons to run defense in particular why Seattle got back into this game.
Yeah. Once again, it'd be interesting to see. Looked like Isaiah Buggs is getting moved around a little bit there, in to start that second half over there. They were running, looked like some wide zone, and they running some duo, and then they ran some power. I mean, really, it was all working for the Seahawks there for at least the 2.5 drives or so on the run. Now the Steelers got better, from that point forward there, and especially I think after they possessed the ball a little bit there, more maybe after that field goal drive, I think. I'm trying to remember specifics there, but they had to, because that run defense was just getting eaten alive there. I think fortunately the Seahawks had a key holding penalty down in the red zone there that backed them up, and then I think a sack followed that, maybe by Highsmith, and that was huge kind of turning point in that game, because it felt like it was going to be a 3rd consecutive drive that they were going to come down there, I think, and score a touchdown, and they didn't. They held them to the field goal there. But really interested to look at the all 22 on the defensive side of football up front there, especially in that third quarter.
But luckily, Pittsburgh's defense made the plays in the end, and it was in particular T.J. Watt, who just had an unbelievable game. I don't even remember all the numbers right now. It was 7 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 2 sacks, at least 1 forced fumble, maybe even a second. I'm not 100% sure how they calculated one of those things. Multiple tackles for loss, and the play at the end, obviously, the strip sack fumble on Geno Smith. He was almost triple teamed off the snap of that football by the right guard, the right tackle, and the running back kind of coming on that play action look, and found a way to find the quarterback and make the play. So that's as Tomlin said after the game, he was full of fun quips. He's well compensated, and he makes plays like that because he gets paid like that.
Absolutely, and worth his weight of gold, most definitely. Late in that game, well, throughout it. That's the T.J. Watt that you come to know and love over the years.
Yeah, so defensively, in this one, it was, like I said, it was your studs. It was Cam Hayward, who again played a beast of a game. I don't know how that guy does it, and just seems to get better every single week. And it's T.J. Watt, and you do enough to win. But certainly the tackling has to improve. The run defense overall, Keith Butler's going to be super hot about that one, about how bad that run defense was in the second half. And that game. Because on paper, obviously, you're facing that backup quarterback, you're facing the backup running back, an offensive line that's had some issues. They're coming out on the road in primetime. You should have been able to just shut those guys down the way that you shut them down in the first half, or pretty, darn close to it. And you could not. And it wasn't even like, Metcalf or Lockett killed you and they beat you for a big play or something like that. It was the Seattle Seahawks able to kind of, efficiently move the football, and that just should not happen. They get a chunk play. That should have been the Seattle's path to getting back into this game, because they hit some long 60-yard bomb or something like that. But that generally was not the case, except for the Everett 41-yard catch and run. But it was, Smith being able to work efficiently, the ground game working well, and that's just not acceptable for the Steelers defense.
No, you're right. Especially the way that offense is going to be this season. You can't envision this offense putting up a lot of points, in games. So You just, especially against the run there, it was funny to talk to go back to what Butler had said. Philosophy. His philosophy
Right.
is to stop the run, and Mike Tomlin's is to play coverage and keep a lid on it. Well, it looked like Tomlin won out overall this week there, but they really need to look at that a little bit better. And once again, it'll be interesting to see what happens when and if Stephon Tuitt gets back here. See what Carlos Davis maybe can do if he's called upon in there. But they've got to do a better job at stopping the run. And look, you're going to have occasional things happen there, but you got Cleveland coming up, and if they get I don't know if they're going to have Kareem Hunt back, because I think he has some sort of a calf injury. I don't know if he's going to have enough time to get past that, but I think they're going to be getting Nick Chubb back in. This is a Browns team that is going to try to probably look at that blueprint of what the Bengals had a couple of weeks ago there in the Seahawks on Sunday night there, and there's going to be a lot of run in that game. So you better fix it during the bye week here.
Yeah, to talk about some names, specifically individually, I don't want to point the blame and put all the fault on just one or two guys, but I thought Devin Bush had a poor game overall. He was overrunning gaps. He was not making tackles. I mean, one play he literally ran past the runner. Even on the fumble recovery, I thought he was going to Jim Marshall it and start running the wrong way. I got a little nervous there for a second. Terrell Edmonds, I don't think played a great game overall. The touchdown that Alex Collins had, Edmonds really late with his eyes, did not fill his gap, and got there late and allowed Collins to cross the goal line. Seattle probably still scores in that drive, but still a bad play by him. So I thought those two guys in particular were not great. Isaiah Buggs made some plays early, but as you said, it looked like he got picked on a bit there in the second half. So I thought Edmonds and Bush in particular did not play well, at least watching it live.
Yeah, Bush ran right by. It looked like did a great job. Go to beeline over there to the to I guess it would have been his right side on one of those runs. Ran right past Collins on that play there. So yeah, they obviously left some plays out on the field. Joe Hayden missed some tackles right over on that side over there. Once again, like you said, a little while ago, Josh Carney's going to be busy this week.
Yeah. Talk about some of the positives, though, defensively, individually. Alex Highsmith with maybe his best game of the season, a sack and a half, and a really nice sack on his full one against Dwayne Brown. Nice job to dip the corner and make the play. So hopefully he's feeling a little bit healthier after battling that groin injury throughout the season. Trey Norwood, his best game by far of his NFL career. 3 third-down stops, 2 tackles, a pass breakup, and they were all equally big, especially, well, all of them were big, but that one after the Ben fumble, Seattle has the football, 17-17 at Pittsburgh's 35. The whole defense making the stand there was huge, but Norwood making that third down tackle, I believe, for a loss, and it pushed them out of field goal range, forced the punt. That whole sequence, to me, might have been one of the turning points of the game, because Seattle should have gotten points, or at least attempted to get points with a field goal in that one. The fact Pittsburgh held them to a 3-and-out and a punt is a massive victory, and Norwood really stepped up and showed some more physicality and making plays in those key moments, and has really carved it at home in that dime package for Pittsburgh.
Boy, he sure looked good in that game, didn't he? Especially the physical willingness to tackle, and
that was Metcalf. He cut down too. That's not a small guy.
Right. Are you talking about the first one there?
That was the first one, yeah.
Right, and he came up. That was I think a man coverage too. So he had to be aware and come off of his man real quick to be in position to make that tackle. I think that's one of the things that really stuck out to me as well too. If memory serves me, that was a man type situation there, and he comes off of his man after Metcalf makes the catch to cut him down low as well too. So very impressed with his play. Once you said, like you said, 3, were all of them third down stops? I think they were, weren't they? Right?
Yeah, those 3 in particular were all third down stops. It was a tackle on Metcalf. There was a pass breakup, and that third down, I think, screen that Seattle was trying to run where Norwood got the TFL.
Right. So good on him, and we'll see if that earns him a few more snaps moving forward here in maybe some nickel type situations.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it will, because I think Millet's still playing okay, but I think certainly there's a dime package there for Norwood. He's locked in there and is doing very well, and then certainly for his future next year, kind of stuff where his role could expand, certainly. So you're seeing Norwood make strides in that direction. Any other commentary on the Steelers defense in this game in terms of just the overall play or individual play? Any other notes that you had rewatching this one, Dave?
Just from the TV tape, it felt like Wormley had another decent game again. Let's see, Millette 28 snaps. Norwood had 15 in this one. Pierre only played 14 snaps in this one. But kudos to him for knocking that. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Knocking that ball out late there. Spillane 10 snaps. Loudermilk 8 snaps in this one. So that did it feel
Who
like
were the defensive line leaders in snaps? Hayward obviously number 1. Wormley, I'm guessing 2. How did that rotation go?
Hayward 58. Wormley 45, Mondo 19, Bugs 15, and Loudermilk 8.
So Mondo was getting the most rotational snaps. That's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Over Loudermilk, who did have at least, I think, one nice run stop in that game. But we'll have to go back and watch. Obviously, someone was doing something wrong on some of those runs that they were just getting gashed in the second half and the third quarter in particular. So we'll have to kind of see what those issues were. I'm sure it's more than just one guy, but we'll have to go back and watch a tape on that one.
All right. You want to talk? You want to go offense and then talk about the end of the game play, or what? Or in a regulation play? How do you want to attack this?
Let's talk about the end of regulation since we're sticking with the defense, and that it was such a marquee moment. And Mike Tomlin's wallet will be a little bit lighter after this week.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
With his critique of the NFL, I think he tried to hold back some, but probably not enough. Let me pull up Tomlin's quote here post game, and I think everyone knows what happened at the end of this game. There's 18 seconds left. Seattle, no timeouts. They're down by 3. They throw an out route to DK Metcalf, who tries to get a couple extra yards before going out of bounds. James Pierre, a great job to punch the football out, forces a fumble. It goes backwards in the field of play. Wide receiver for Seattle, Freddie Swain, recovers it. The time's going down. Seattle has no timeouts left. The clock's ticking. They go to spike the football. Smith appears to spike it with a second left. The refs come in. They blow the whistle. They're reviewing whether or not Metcalf caught the football or not. For some reason, even though it was not in dispute one bit, there's a long 5-10 minute delay. They review it was a catch. They have to respike the football. There's 3 seconds left, and Myers kicks the game-tying field goal. They head to overtime. So after all of that, and after the Steelers' victory, Mike Tomlin said after the game, quote, "I hated it," referring to that sequence. "I can't believe that game was stopped to confirm catch, no catch in that moment." Then he said, "That's all I'm going to say." And then he said some more and said it was an embarrassment. And that was the end of his critique, but that'll probably earn him a hefty letter and fine from the NFL. It was a mess, though. I don't think it really impacted the outcome of that end too much, Dave, but it certainly was a discombobulated situation for the refs.
Going back through it and having the explanation and all as it was, because it took them a long time to sort that out, right? I think the end result was right. I just don't like how it got there, and I don't think Mike Tomlin did either, obviously. When did they decide that the play needed to be reviewed? Why was it, when did the actual stoppage whistle blow for that?
It was after the spike, it felt like.
It did feel like it was after the spike.
Yeah, and they had come in and said that they are going to go back and look at it. And so then once they did review it, they had to respike the football on a running clock with 3 seconds left. So, I mean, even if the refs never intervened at all, it seemed like Smith got that spike off with a second left. So it's not like had there been no time left, then that would have been a big difference for sure in the game. But it seems like even the refs, swallowed the whistle. Seattle would have still had the chance to kick a field goal.
Yeah, that's looking at it again this morning and trying to be as objective as possible. It feels like it got to. They were going to get a chance at a field goal with either 3 or 1 second, 2 seconds left, period. But it's just a minutia that went into that. Boy, and what's Russell Wilson doing on the field over there on that side? And what do you feel about stoppage of review under, 30 seconds left in the game, under a minute, under 2 minutes? Should a team be charged a runoff in that situation? Maybe that's something that they need to look at. I don't know.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's not the team's fault if the refs come in and stop a play. It just stop the plays that are worth stopping. and there was no reason. I mean, Metcalf clearly caught the football. He took 4 or 5 steps, got upfield. The catch was not in dispute one bit. And so I don't know why the refs had to come in and slow down the whole game and even just do this in the first place. There was no reason to do so.
Did at any point of that, did you feel the Steelers got screwed?
No, but I'm fine with replays. Really, I'm probably as pro replay as anybody, but I hate when the refs come in and intervene and we have this 10-minute song and dance when you're just trying to wonder, is this game going to go to overtime or not? Let the game play out. Let's be excited about the game and keep the focus on the actual action and not a big ref discussion over nothing, really. I think that was just kind of silly to have the officials meddle in how that game ended in regulation.
It really took away from the flow of it for sure.
Yeah.
And you'd and good thing he's Daryl Taylor is fine, but you had the long stoppage there late in the game for that as well too, while he was assisted to, and then obviously carted off and all like that. But definitely took away from the flow of the game. After already having the flow interrupted by a serious, what might have been a serious injury at first.
Mm-hmm. The only thing you could argue potentially is that was Tyler Lockett lined properly on the snap of that football on the actual spike that Smith had with 1 second left. It looked like Joe Hayden was trying to point and say that Lockett was not on the football, and at least by his reaction, that's kind of what it seemed to be. The ref is standing right there, and he didn't throw a flag, and so I don't know even if Lockett was off ball incorrectly that they would have called it. But that's one thing you could try to argue. But from an actual, did they get the spike off in time? They did. And honestly, I'm really mad the Steelers gave up a sideline throw with 18 seconds left with Seattle not having a timeout. I mean, how do you give up an easy pitch and catch like that to DK Metcalf? That, to me, was totally unacceptable. So I'm a little mad that Steelers allowed that in the first place, and we put themselves in that situation. But I guess it all worked out.
And then Metcalf said, "Hold my beer," and stayed in bounds.
Right.
I mean, he could have avoided all this nonsense had he just caught that ball and went out of bounds. But props to James Pierre for knocking that football out, because that caused obviously more time off the clock to run.
Yeah, his punch is a little more accurate than T.J. Watt's, which I was mad they threw a penalty on him for that.
Yeah.
If you don't want a guy to punch the football out like that, blow the whistle. The refs let that one play out. And so, of course, when a guy's getting stood up, people are going to go for the football. That's how football works. That's how defenders are taught. And so, T.J. Watt's obviously not trying to punch the running back. He's trying to punch the football out. And so it's not malicious there. So that was frustrating.
And then they turn around after the sack fumble and Devin Bush picked up the loose football. You have DK Metcalf trying to punch him.
Right, which is fine.
Which I'm fine with, but I mean, you call it both ways, Once again, you can avoid all that nonsense if you blow the whistle there in that situation when a guy is stood up.
Yeah, if they penalized every defender who missed their punch on the football, those guys get penalized 10 times a game. I mean, usually those punches are not successful. And so if you really think it was malicious, then either reject T.J. Watt for an actual punch, because if you're flagging for punching him, that's an ejection. So either do that or don't throw the flag at all. And obviously, I don't think they should have thrown the flag at all.
I guess we'll see what the league really thinks, whether or not T.J. Watt gets fined later this week.
Yeah, but I do think Dana White's going to be calling T.J. Watt because those were some strong uppercuts. I think he's fighting. Oh, if I knew more about UFC, I'd make a better joke here. But he's fighting. Give me a UFC fighter, Dave. You know this stuff.
Oh, Conor McGregor, huh?
All right, that's an easy one. He's fighting Conor McGregor in UFC 235. I don't know, next Sunday.
But huge game over, once again for T.J. Watt. Really made an impact late in that thing, and when they needed it the most too, because you just kind of had your I had a sinking feeling at that point, this thing's going to end in a tie.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I thought it was going to end in a tie for sure. But got the quick turnover there, and props to one guy we haven't really mentioned yet. Chris Boswell just continues to bang these things home from I don't know what's a city right outside of Pittsburgh that's a I mean, it just feels like he's nailing these things from across the state when he's hitting them. A lot of big long ones too, and Matthew Wright must be drinking Chris Boswell, because he had a couple of nice long ones in that Jacksonville game overseas there earlier on Sunday.
Oh yeah,
well too.
Good for him. Yeah, no, I was going to mention the special teams a little bit later in the show. They were fantastic. Yeah, Chris Boswell hitting them from Fox Chapel, we'll say.
There you go.
A little ritzy there, Fox Chapel land. He's been awesome. Obviously. He has, since 2019, he has the highest field goal percentage of any kicker in the NFL, even better than Justin Tucker. It's like 93.7% field goals made since 2019, coming off that disastrous 2018 season he had. So he's been excellent, and kudos to Christian Kuntz and Presley Harvin for their first game-winning snap and hold. And Harvin had some good holds in that game. Some of those snaps were a little inside, a little bit high. I think Harvin did a really good job overall getting the ball placed. So kudos to those guys as well. Did you check out Harvin on the game winner? He got some hops. That's I think it's high he's ever jumped in his entire life. That dude.
No, I had to go back and check that one out.
Go back and watch that. But kudos to those guys, because as Danny Smith says, the field goal is not a kick, it's an operation. It's a snap, it's a hold, it's a kick, it's a block. And so all those guys did their job on that play.
Are you ready? Are we done with the defensive side of football? We'll have plenty of time to look at the end zone view and how they were gashed and all like that. But anything else stick out?
TJ Watt better win Defensive Player of the Year. Except if he does not do it this year, man, I don't know what year it's going to be. But no, I'm good with the defense.
I don't know that Diggs for Dallas.
Right.
Is certainly doing a lot so far. If he keeps intercepting the ball every week, he might get it.
You're bringing me down on this Monday, Dave, but with your logic and your facts.
I know. That's what I do.
I know. All right, let's talk about the Steelers offense. And again, it's a little hard to gauge how you want to overall rate this offensive performance, because there was some good, there was some ugly in this one. Like I said, it was kind of fits and starts, off and on, hot and cold kind of game for this offense. But I think they did enough in terms of red zone play. They had just the one turnover, which was a bad one by Ben, a weird one by Ben, but luckily it did not cost them from a point standpoint. And I don't know, like I said, the theme of this game was just enough to win, and the offense did just enough to win.
There were a couple more instances in this game where Ben got away with one. One of those was one of those batted up passes that kudos to Chase Claypool, I think, coming in. And who was it? Was it Jamal Adams? I think that thing went right through his
best in the nation, Jamal Adams.
Oh yeah, at that. And I'm if Chase Claypool doesn't come from behind, I don't know, that might be an interception there. And there was the other one. Was that also Jamal that it went right off of his coconut?
On later? The left side?
Yeah, on the left side, the one that hit somebody right in the helmet. Was that Adams?
So that the one, the Claypool, that he kind of broke up in that third down play? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, there was one later in the game that Ben threw right to a Seahawks player that went right off his face mask.
Well, okay. Yeah, that one was Jamal Adams. Was there another one off of Jamal Adams?
Well,
they got batted up.
The batted up one, right.
Okay, yeah, that was Adams, yeah. The second one was right off Adams' head for sure, because he was going for the hit instead of the football. And,
right. So there's two that Adams probably shoulda, coulda, woulda had, and he didn't there. So how many times can you get away with those? It's up to the other team, I know, to make plays and all, but there were a few moments there. There were definitely a couple of turnover-worthy type plays there, and then obviously the Ben Roethlisberger trying to pump fake. And what did you think about the ruling on that?
The tuck rule doesn't really exist anymore. It exists in, I think, a much more narrow fashion, is my on-the-fly understanding of that rule. So
it felt like the arm. To me, it felt like the arm was coming forward, and he lost control of the ball. The first time,
was the ball going forward?
Huh?
Was the ball going forward? Because the ball was going
down. But the arm motion is what I'm talking about. The arm motion. So I understand once they started talking about the point of football and all, but boy, that's kind of ticky tack, right?
Yeah, but is it the right call? I think it was the right call. By the letter of the law.
After the fact, yes, but initially, my initial thought was, that's it. That's incomplete.
Right.
But once again, once it was broken down, yes, I think they made the right call. But my initial thought was, that's an incomplete pass.
I was just shocked Ben lost the football. I'm sure it's happened before, but I don't know how many times Ben has lost control of the football in a pump fake like that. He's been just the king of being able just to pump and hold on to it. He was doing it all game long. And so I was just kind of surprised that it slipped out of his hand in the first place.
Yeah, I was. That was a big play too.
Yeah, but like I said, thankfully the defense really held firm. The defense kind of stood up in those key moments, even though they did not play well enough in the second half. overall. But yeah, Ben got away, like you said, with a ton. Even the one that, like I mentioned, the Claypool on the left side, I think was a third down throw that he got pressured on. That could have been picked. Chase Claypool, I think, had as many breakups in this game as he had catches. So he had the Adams that was tipped up, and that the third down throw left side that he kind of got in the way of and played, I think, some good DP on. So yeah, Ben got away with a lot in this game.
I didn't think Chase Claypool had all that great a game. I was expecting a much better game out of him. Miscommunication over on that left side. Ben, I think, expected him to look for the back shoulder on that. What else? Had the pass interference.
Yeah.
Well, had to push off down the field on a 2nd and 5 throw later in the game, and then I think he didn't he get another, like a block in the back or blocking as well too on one of those quick wide receiver passes and all like that. Really was kind of disappointed overall with his play.
Me too. He was on my losers list, and he's such a talented player, but there's just such an inconsistency in his game, just game to game, week to week. When it's good, it's good. I mean, the dude's freakishly talented, but you're just trying to get the piece together. He's a 2nd-year guy, and you want to give him some grace for that, but he can be better than that on a week-to-week basis, and you're just trying to get that consistency in his game.
Absolutely.
So with the offense on the scoring drives, it was a lot of short stuff. I mean, on their 2 scoring drives, which totaled, 15, 20 plays, they only had 1 play longer than 12 yards, and that was a Deontay Johnson 25-yard, jet play or end around, whatever the play was on that one. So it was a lot of short stuff. It was a lot of war of attrition. They didn't do as good of a job running on first down, staying on schedule overall with a third down offense, not nearly as strong as it was last week, but some young guys stepped up. It was the young guys really, generally speaking, and Ben said during the week before the game that Pat Freiermuth was going to get more involved in this offense, and he did. He had a career-high 7 catches for 58 yards, and he had 7 catches on 7 targets for 58, which is a very Pat Freiermuth-like stat line we're probably going to see a lot more of in the future.
What did you think about Ben's cover 2 hole shot over there to the left side?
Yeah, Ben, to his credit, had 2 great throws back-to-back. The one to Deontay under pressure over the middle, and then that hole shot, which was also to Deontay, I believe, right?
Right.
Dave?
Right.
Okay, yeah. So those were 2 great throws, but he's got to be more than just 2 great throws on a day where he throws the ball 40 times, but those were dimes by Ben.
Here's the thing, and it usually plays into a recipe for a Steelers win, especially this year. And we've talked about it, obviously running the football well, having your defense play well and take get a turnover or 2 in the game there. He did not really connect down the field in this game either. We've seen this time and time again. It felt like this offense needed 1 or 2 shot plays in this game, and they didn't get it. Really, I think the only deep completion that he had was the whole shot, was it not?
Yeah, the longest completion of the day was 23 yards. The next longest catch was 15. So I mean, it was on 40 pass attempts. So it was a short game overall for the Steelers.
And that obviously caused his intended air yards, because of the 40-something pass attempts, was like 6 point something, and his completed air yards was under 4. All right, so they needed 1 or 2 more big plays in this game, and they didn't get it. Had they had that, this game probably wouldn't have been as close, right? So.
Right.
It's just one of those things. I think you're going to fight. He continues to, for the most part. I mean, I think there was the one play where they were trying to, at the 20-yard line there, where they were trying to set up maybe a duplicate with maybe Deontay running the the touchdown against Denver with the Claypool route there, kind of splitting the middle of the field safeties. But I think Ben ended up dumping that down to Najee on that play there overall. But got to see Ben be able to connect down the field in some of these games there. But they did just enough. Once again, the running game run success rate was there. We've talked a lot about that heading into this season. The defense was just good enough, and obviously played a big part in winning this game late with the T.J. Watt takeaway there. What did you think about that? Speaking of that 2nd and 5 shot was that was in the fourth quarter there, I think. On the heels of how many successful runs was it? 1, 2, 3, like 5. I think they had 5 successful runs right in a row, all by Najee at that time. And they got themselves into a 2nd and 5 situation. And then that's when they threw deep down the left side, and Claypool got the push-off pass interference in there. It felt like that disrupted everything at that point, because obviously the penalty then puts you way behind the chains. You have to throw in that situation. I mean, it's 2nd and 5, and you just had a successful run on 1st and 10. Keep running that dadgum ball at that point. That to me, that's why there's a very distinct feel later in that game. Okay, this is why you got that first round running back to right. Run this thing out there, and then you take the ball out of his hands. And I understand you can't run every time, but it felt like they were running downhill at that point. And like I said, I think it was like 5 successful runs right in a row by Najee Harris. And really, Najee, I think, only carried the football on 1st and 2nd downs throughout the game. I don't think he had a third down carry in that game. So I was a little disappointed there. Now, obviously, if you could, it's one of those results bias things, I'm sure, because if you complete that ball to Claypool down that side, then are you even talking about it there? But it right. Really felt like they should have been running on that 2nd and 5, I guess is what I'm saying. And even if you don't get it, don't get a successful run there, you set up a very manageable 3rd down situation.
I was fine with them throwing the football. I believe Ben talked about this after the game, that I don't know if it was a hard count or if Adams just tipped it early. He was coming down hard against the run. I think they weren't going to have the numbers count to run the football in that play. When you're leaving 33 for them on block, it's probably not going to go well. You're probably going to still be in 3rd and 5 plus. And so I was okay with Ben checking out of that one. I know Steeler fans in general in the first half got on Pittsburgh for running into 8-man boxes and things like that. But listen, they played a lot of heavy personnel in this game with Juju out. They played a lot of 12 personnel, 21 personnel. And so when you do that, you're, of course, going to face 8-man boxes. You're not going to have a defense play too high when you got tight ends and fullbacks out there. So in terms of box count, which is the most important thing, they were probably even throughout most of that game. But on that particular play, they might have been -1 because Adams was spinning down late. And so Ben made the decision to throw. So I was okay with that. Obviously, it worked out really poorly, but I understood why Ben threw the football in that play.
All right. We talked before the show. Might we see more 2 tight end stuff? We did. I think that's pretty evident there. I can do without having to ask Eric Ebron to block an end on some running plays. I could do without seeing that. The other thing is, and once again, we covered this earlier in the show when we're talking about the wide receiver counts and all like that. We don't know for sure if maybe it'd be interesting to see Washington, when those plays stop for Washington, maybe if he indeed maybe aggravated that groin and whatnot. Maybe that took away from us maybe seeing more Claypool in the slot. Do you want? Let's assume that Washington was okay through this thing, and that's a dangerous assumption. But I'm done with seeing Ray play a lot of slot snaps.
Yeah, the ceiling's so limited offensively, but it does seem like it's been indicated they want Claypool to play more on the outside, and so that is their goal, right? But if that is their goal, which it seems to partially at least be, then that means Ray is kind of your only other option right now, unless you call up Steven Sims or until Anthony Miller gets ready, I should say. Maybe after the bye that could change. But I hear you on Ray. I mean, I love the guy as a returner. He's a tough dude. Like I like the guy. I think he's a valuable player to this team. But in terms of your offensive slot snaps, you're not going to get a ton of production, especially when you go from Juju to McLeod, who have 2 very different skill sets.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. Maybe we'll see Miller week 8, week 9. I don't know, or Sims. But it just feels like Miller is the more experienced, obviously, and obviously has the pedigree and has seen a lot more in games. When it comes to that. So I don't know how much he'll get done during the bye week there, but maybe he'll be an option for this team. It's just, how many passes does Ray even have down the field anyway that he's caught? Not only this season, but for his NFL career, right?
Right. Not many. He did have, I think, one yesterday. Had a 15-yarder. I don't know the exact circumstances of that, but I think that was more for downfield catch.
I mean, if you need a bigger body in there, and bless his heart, and look, he helps blocking. So it's just he's just not a premier player in there. I mean, he gives it his all. I mean, we've seen him so far this season do some of the dirty work and attempt to block guys much bigger with him and do a good job at it, overall. But just on a play-by-play basis, a player out of the slot, that's really where they're going to miss Juju at, and especially if they're not going to be open to playing Claypool there more.
Yeah, where I missed Juju the most last night was that 3rd and 4 late in the game where Ben hit McLeod in the right flat, and it felt like for a second he might have the room to get to the marker. He's one-on-one with the corner. I believe it was Trey Brown, and Brown with a great tackle just sticks and drives McLeod back. I'm not guaranteeing Juju breaks a tackle or anything like that, gets the first down, but I think he's got a better chance to take on that hit better than McLeod obviously could.
Overall, once again, to kind of recap, like the use of Freiermuth, they could probably stand to use them to use them a little bit more, even to be quite honest with you. Like the play call to Ebron for what it was, that gives they set that up earlier in the game too, going the other direction with Ebron in motion and kind of a fake play at kind of a fake handoff to him and all. So good on them for kind of setting that up, and I guess they didn't see the movement that they thought they would see, or no respect given to them on that. And then obviously when they got down to the goal line, ran it the other way and actually handed it to them. So props for pulling that one out of the bag there. It seemed like they had some motion early on in this game that was working pretty decent overall. And the biggest takeaway once again was Ben and a couple of the balls that he got away with that weren't picked. And then just the inability to hit down the field. It felt like if they got one or two big plays in this game passing down the field, it really would have made this game, a lot less close.
Yeah, for sure. Some other kind of final thoughts here, or at least final initial thoughts on this team. I like the touchdown to Najee Harris. I love spreading the field out in the red zone, especially the low red zone. They were at like the 5 or 6 yard line, because you can't stretch the field vertically in those moments. You got to stretch the field horizontally and kind of challenge a defense that way. And so Harris is up to 34 receptions this year. Does he still lead the team in catches? He's tied with Deontay. And so Harris only needs 28 catches to tie Claypool's rookie record for receptions in the season by Steelers. So he's going to get that by like week 10 probably, and just blaze past that. So and I think someone said he's on pace for 385 touches this season. So I mean that's he's a first round pick for a reason, and they continue to treat him as such.
Yeah, look, he's getting the touches. We knew before the season started he was going to probably touch the ball well over 300 times, and he certainly is on pace for that. Did the wrist injury from Snell prevent him from getting those carries, or has Ballage passed him? I guess we're going to find out here maybe this next game, right?
Yeah, but Snell was healthy enough to play, so it's not like he broke his wrist or did anything super damaging. Ballage had a couple nice plays, so kudos to him.
Let's see. Who had the higher special teams snap count on
Probably
that?
Still Snell, I'm guessing.
Let's see here. Snell had 25 special team snaps. Ballage had 4.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how that.
Right, and obviously when Anthony McFarland comes back, he's not going to give you hardly any special team snaps, if any. So the question becomes, Ballage might be the odd man out here, and fans are going to go ballistic when and if that happens.
Yeah, McFarland's only special teams value really. Has he run down kicks before? He's a kick returner, punt returner. He's a backup to both of those spots. He might have run down kicks before, but obviously, that's not a thing he's super strongly suited to do.
If Benny Snell and that wrist is healthy, it's hard to imagine him getting booted off of here, right?
Yeah, he won't. Not with the special teams value that he has.
So you think Ballage is going to be the odd man out, huh?
It's either that or one of those something else happens along the way that. But It'll be interesting. I don't really have a great feel or read on that, but we'll see. I want to make one last point on Najee Harris that we don't talk about too much, and thankfully we don't talk about it too much. The ball security, dude has not fumbled once this season. He takes really good care of the football. Late in that game, they're trying to pry the football out in overtime and things like that. So just kudos to him. I know him and Eddie Faulkner every single day are working on ball security drills. Faulkner's got a million different versions of it. He's always trying to punch the football out. So we take that for granted sometimes with running backs, but no fumbles by Najee Harris this season, despite the beating he's taken, the hits he's taken, and so kudos to him for that.
Rough game for Dan Moore early in my notes.
Yeah, Taylor's a really good pass rusher, and so I'm glad that it sounds like he's okay. He flew back with the team, according to Greg Bell. Pete Carroll says the CT scans were clean, so that was a very scary injury. Of course, Steeler fans know the history of Ryan Shazier well, but Moore definitely took his lumps against Darrell Taylor.
All right, what else? Are we missing anything here?
Kendra Green, a little bit better maybe for Kendra Green.
Yeah, I felt that initially, especially out there in space and all too. There was one run over there to the left side too that I thought he did a real good job. I think getting out in space and making a good block there. So it did feel like, and I don't remember thinking, man, he's on the ground a lot. So we'll see what the All 22 says on that. But it did feel like a much better game for Kendra Green. And
my last question.
Trey Turner had the early false start that was concerning there. I mean, for the most part, I thought the offensive line played pretty good overall.
Yeah, I was good enough. Again, was the theme of this.
Okay.
Good enough. My last question for you, if you could look it up, what was the tight end snap count? Gentry, I think, played a good bit in this game against that Seahawks 4-3 defense with some of their bigger guys. Obviously, Freiermuth played a lot. Ebron got his touches and snaps. So I imagine they were all pretty close, probably all playing 25 snaps apiece or something like that.
Yeah,
Freiermuth probably more.
Yeah, pretty close. Freiermuth 45, Ebron 34, Zach Gentry 23. So they definitely, we're definitely going to see a lot of 12 personnel on tape. Now, you get into that later portion of the game, looked like they used a lot more 11 personnel later on, and that obviously created smaller boxes to run against because of that. Kind of spread them out a little bit more. Maybe that was the goal at that point, was go heavy early. You kind of wear them down. Then if you try to run some out of 11 personnel later on in the game, and that's what it felt like.
And I believe Freiermuth was the guy in 11 personnel for the majority of the snaps.
It felt like it. I haven't seen the charting yet on it.
Check Tom's charting later in the week. All right, so. Yeah, thoughts on that one. Good enough to get the victory. And so you're 3-3. You got the bye week, and you'll come out of the bye playing Cleveland, who's also 3-3. What are the AFC North standings right now, Dave? Did you have the article on that written yet, or know what the standings at least are? Baltimore's in the lead. Bengals second place.
Yeah, Baltimore obviously 5-1 overall. Cincinnati 4-2. They easily took care of Detroit on Sunday. Cleveland lost. They are 3-3, and the Steelers are 3-3. So I think on technicality, because the Steelers had the loss in the division, that's why they are behind Cleveland technically, even though both teams have 3-3 records as that stands. So Cleveland played, let's see, obviously the Steelers are on a bye. And let me see, who does Cleveland play?
Cleveland's a short week. They're on Thursday against, I forget who they're playing. It's
the Broncos. The Broncos. Okay. And then you have the Bengals and the Ravens playing each other in Sunday early action there. So I suppose we're rooting for the Bengals in that one, right?
It could go either way. I mean, yeah, are we at the point where you just kind of assume Baltimore's going to take the North, or I guess you're still at the point where there's enough time to hope for some losses? But man, they looked real good against the Chargers yesterday.
They surely did, and boy, the Chargers didn't look that great at all defensively, especially against the run in that game. And for all the injuries that the Ravens have had, and makeshift offensive line and running backs, they're still getting it done. They be advisable to maybe cover just two players for them, Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, but I guess easier said than done. Sure would like to see the Steelers make Freiermuth as big of a focal point of the offense as the Ravens do to Mark Andrews. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But Andrews is just a really freak athlete. Yeah. I mean, just really, really, premier tight end in the league that has several of them. So any other thoughts here, Dave? Or I suppose we can get to some read emails and start closing out today's show.
Yeah, just look. I mean, 3-3. We said that a couple of these two games here against Denver. Denver really was a must-win, and the game with the Seahawks was one of those games that because of the break they got with not having Russell Wilson in there and all, it was a game that they should win. It was a game that they better win, and at least they won it. So they don't issue style points as far as I see in the standings right now. So you got yourself to 3-3 after a not great start. Look, I mean that you can make arguments that this team's close to being 1-5 at this point, but they're not. They are what their record says they are, as Mike Tomlin says, and that's 3-3. And now you have the bye week to kind of get healthy, and we'll see how this team attacks this thing coming out. Because once again, you play the Browns coming out of the bye, and then you have two games against the Lions and the Bears that you would think that they should be expected to win there. And I most definitely have to win two of those three, with one of them being against the Browns, because if you lose another division game, this time to the Browns, I mean, you really have to run the division table, I think, at that point. Mm-hmm. To give your shot a chance to win the division, and look at the back end of the schedule, yada yada. But they're at for the hole that they dug themselves early, at least they're halfway out of it. They're at 3-3.
Well said. Last time this team went 3-3 after starting a season 1-3 was 2002. They finished that year 10-5-1 and won the division. So if there's one any random irrelevant historical precedent, there you go. My final thoughts are a lot dumber than your final thoughts. So I appreciate you sounding smart here. I'm watching the dots of the T.J. Watt strip sack fumble. I saw you retweeted Joe Hayden's tweet, and I'm just watching Joe Hayden run off the field in dot form and after celebrating that play. So it just makes me chuckle. But yeah, the dots are cool. I like the next gen.
I do too. I think they do a great job of it. Oh, there he goes, right off the field. I see what you're looking at now.
Play still going on. He's, I assume, celebrating, running to the sideline. Just makes me laugh watching that in dot form.
Boy, what T.J. Watt had to fight through to get through to that sack too.
I know.
Late game. I mean, that guy is absolutely incredible. I mean, well worth the money for sure. All right, shall we get to some emails now?
Yeah, real quick, since you jogged my memory, my last stat. T.J. Watt, 56.5 sacks through his first 5 seasons. That ties Dwight Freeney and Charles Haley for 14th all-time through a player's first 5 years, 10th if you include since the sack era of 1982 to present day. But when you're tying Dwight Freeney and Charles Haley in sacks, you're doing something pretty good.
Absolutely. All right, Chris Schlezik writes in, "What's up, Dave and Alex? I've been listening to you guys forever. Download multiple episodes for my backpacking trips. Nothing scares off bears like Dave talking about the salary cap." There you go. By the way, Dave, try the North Shore of Kauai. You'll love it. Happy to help you if you need some guidance for a trip down there. All right. Question on Devin Bush. I rewatch games and key in on him to see if he's progressing. Am I off to be observing him still being hesitant, attacking the line of scrimmage? Looks like he's still thinking too much, and by the time he processes, alignment is on him. The other thing I've noticed is Edmonds and Bush both filling the same run fits. I've seen this a few times this year. Is that coaching thing or players not understanding their responsibility? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Yeah, Chris, we talked a little bit about Bush earlier in the show. We've talked about Bush really since the start of this season as well, too. You'd like to see him make more plays, more stops. Look, he did have a nice coverage a couple games ago against the Bengals, helped force high throw interception. It's not like he's totally invisible out there. It's just, you would kind of like to see a little bit more. And I think one of the things that did stick out, unfortunately, in this game Sunday night was him running right past Alex Collins on one of those runs over to the side over there. We'll see about the same gap thing with him and Edmonds in this game. It did feel like there was some players out of position in a couple of these runs, especially in those two drives right there in the third quarter that the Seahawks ran the football down the throat. Oftentimes though you have players trying to do too much, but then again there were some run blitzes going on in there as well too, so that kind of clouds it up a little bit there. So we'll look at that. Alex, him and Edmonds, thoughts?
Yeah, I mentioned them earlier. I don't think either of those guys played well. I think Seattle did a good job. They consistently were able to run away from the Steelers' nickel blitz. They did a great job of that every time Millette seemed to come. I felt like they were running away from him. I was thinking about that last night with Devin Bush some, and certainly I want to go back and watch the tape because trying to watch his stuff live, trench plays, is difficult to do. I'm trying to think, what is missing with Devin Bush? And, I know people get on him for the lack of maturity and some of the tweets and stuff like that. I think, I didn't have a big issue with that stuff. I think he worked really hard to come back and be healthy. I think it's a testament to his work ethic and professionalism, things like that. But, does he just not have that instinctiveness, that just awareness, that kind of innate thing that a Ryan Shazier had to make the play? It's hard for me to quantify, but it just doesn't feel like he's a good athlete overall. Like on paper, there's nothing that seems to be super wrong with his game, but it just seems like it just doesn't have those instincts that the way that Shazier does to just know where the ball's going and to find it. And that's a really vague thing for me, I guess, to describe it as, but it just feels like he's just missing that factor that Shazier had.
I think that's fair. And look, go back and look, one of the best podcasts or couple podcasts we've had since you and I have been doing this thing together was pre-draft on him. Where we really went deep into his tape and the stats and all like that. And, one of my biggest fears with him was his inability to make a lot of plays, not only behind the line of scrimmage, but right there at, within a yard or two of the line of scrimmage from college. Now, I think we got into the athleticism, and you said we'll go back and watch his sideline to sideline ability, and then you definitely see impact or what his impact was, or what his calling card was as a blitzer and as a sideline to sideline guy. All right, but still, one of the things I think that I pointed out is you don't see him going downhill and slipping gaps the way Ryan Shazier did, and then being in the backfield. You don't see him interrupting plays like that. He occasionally has, and then when he did have the opportunity to make a play behind the line of scrimmage against Seattle, he didn't. So is it maybe the processing of not, or is he not the risk taker that made? Because look, there was a couple times when Shazier made plays going. He had such the burst though that he could go through the backside gap and get there.
Sure.
And in other words, wrong gap it, but you make up for it. I mean, does anybody remember to go in the wrong gap when you make a play behind the line of scrimmage like that? One of
those no, yes moments from the coaching staff. Yeah, way to go.
Right. So,
but Bush is a really good athlete. He has those traits. It just he doesn't.
I don't think he has the C to do that maybe Shazier had, though.
Right. Well, is it the issue's not the do, the issue's the see, in the sense of the processing and just seeing it. And because he can do it once he sees it, but is he seeing it enough is the issue maybe.
All right. So from the point of seeing it to the doing is the lacking.
Maybe. I mean, I think
that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, we see him make some sideline-to-sideline plays still. We see him do the dropping coverage and all. He seems to be a little bit better against some tight ends, right, in coverage?
Yeah, I think he's made improvement there. Dating back to last year, I think he was making strides, but not to the impact that Shazier just had an ability just to find the ball and make plays on the football. There were that one 3 straight games with an interception or something like that. Like he just found the football, just had that innate, and he obviously was a gifted athlete, but just had that ability to make the play. The Bush it always seems to be close, but no cigar.
I mean, he's not Devin White, right?
I guess I don't even watch Devin White that much. I couldn't tell you. He seems like the better linebacker, but I don't study Devin White the way that I do Devin Bush, obviously.
I mean, look, if this team's going to pick up the 5th-year option on him, he got to get busy here fairly soon. Yeah,
I hear that.
All right, so I think that's fair, but we are not seeing we're not seeing, I don't think, enough of those kind of special plays.
Right. I think that's an objective fact at this point. I mean,
and then we've said the same thing about Edmonds first couple years. I mean, Edmonds has improved overall as a player, but you're still not seeing enough of those splash plays, I don't think.
Yeah, and I can live with that at this point. I've kind of accepted that. Like, that's not going to change, but he needs to just consistently play really good against the run and be a strong tackler, and he was neither of those things last night. Again, watch him with that touchdown to Alex Collins. I mean, I know he might have responsibility for the receiver on that play, so he might be late with his eyes, but, I mean, he's so late to fill that gap, and if he fills that gap, Collins probably does not score, so that was a frustrating moment.
All right, Brian writes in, wow, what a game last night. First off, thanks for everything you do. The Steelers coverage is second to none, and inputs during the game is greatly appreciated. Quick shout-out, too, for the Steelers Depot crew, just pouring through that stuff last night. I mean, people don't understand with that such a late game like that and the way that kind of the interviews come in and all. We try to get as much of the important stuff out immediately after the game, and it was tough last night. They did a great job.
For sure. It was a late night, I mean, for all of us, but kudos to the whole team.
After watching the Seahawks run the ball well in the second half, do you think defensive tackle is slowly becoming a bigger need for this team to address in the upcoming draft? He says Jordan Davis from UGA would be awesome, in my opinion. Also, who would you give the game ball to? Watt, Boswell, Hayward? I think it's the chicken and the egg type of situation for sure, but you don't even I don't think you even get to win in that game if Watt doesn't make the play that he makes. So I don't want to take anything away from Boswell. I don't want to take anything away from Hayward there, but I think the game ball has to go to Watt in that one. As far as the Seahawks running the ball and needing another defensive tackle, look, it was a huge loss not having losing Tyson Alualu in there, and then obviously Carlos Davis has been out since week 1. Bugs is not the future. I think we can all agree on that. Right?
I like Bugs against the run, but is he going to be like your starter 3 years from now, nose tackle? Probably not.
I don't think so. And unfortunately, Davis hasn't stayed healthy this year to see more of him. So I get it. Look, if you are going to draft a defensive tackle, you're not going to take one in the first or second round. So I haven't watched a lot of Jordan Davis. I'll take your word for it right there. We have plenty of time to think about that. But I guess what he's getting at is it possible to address that in the draft? I can't shoot that down right now.
Yeah, I can't either. But I do want to see how the rest of the season plays out because it is a young defensive line group. Let's see what happens when Carlos Davis gets back. Hopefully when Stephon Tuitt comes back. We'll see what's going on with Alualu in the offseason. So, I'll take the season as a chunk instead of trying to evaluate it right now and base that off the draft. But, that Davis kid, I've watched him a little bit. He's legit. I mean, that Georgia defense is playing like the 76 Steelers. I mean, they are just rocking it every single week. And so that kid is a legitimate run stuffer.
Hank writes in, hey guys, would love to see a breakdown of Bush's highs and lows this season. Hard not to mostly see lows watching on TV, but no, y'all have been more mixed in your review. Yeah, Hank, we just kind of talked about it there. I mean, it's not that he's not making plays, just not enough of them. Not being as impactful as you would hope a first round inside linebacker would be, and definitely not as impactful yet during his career as, say, Ryan Shazier was during that same amount of time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know Bush has 2 sacks this season. They were both good plays, but I mean, they both came in free, and it was a good scheme. So I don't want to take away too much from him, but they weren't the most unbelievable plays you've ever seen in your entire life. So yeah, I think I've given all my thoughts on Devin Bush.
Hank also says, I'll take the win, albeit not a pretty or impressive one. Was pretty frustrated to see the lack of snaps that Washington got. Even if you buy that they think Chase is better on the outside, do you see enough difference between Chase and James to keep Washington on the bench? I just have more confidence in Washington to make the tough catches. Look, we've talked a little bit about Claypool, this season, about not making enough of those contested catches down the field, and personally, I'd like to see him with now that Juju's out, I'd like to see him more in the slot, to be honest with you. But I don't know. We'll have to see how this thing transpires a little bit more. And obviously Claypool, I think, gives you more the ability to get some separation down the field. But neither he or Washington really going to consistently stack guys on the outside, I don't think, and run past them. So you are going to end up having a lot of contested catch type situations there. And right now, Claypool's not getting enough of those.
Claypool is one of those guys where, as a coaching staff, you're always chasing the highs because you know he can make some really unbelievable type of plays. And so you see that enough that you want to give him more chances and see if he can do it again. And so you're just trying to give him those opportunities and consistent, chances to make that gaudy highlight reel type of play, which he's certainly capable of. But as I said earlier, it is about finding that consistency in his game because it's just too feast or famine with him right now.
Look, Deontay's your best deep threat on this team. That guy could get a release like nobody's business, no matter where. And Ben needs to put that ball out there, that early ball out there to him a little bit more. Ben does that. That might have been the one that, definitely one that got away. And then there was the one in the end zone. I don't know how you feel about that one. I think that was the free play one.
I thought Deontay might have had. I thought he could have had that one. Tough play.
Yeah,
He had his first drop of the year too, which was a tougher catch, but he's got to make that play late.
Yeah. We get it when it comes to Claypool and Washington. It's going to be interesting. Once again, we don't know if Washington was dinged up in this game a little bit. Maybe that led to the way the snap distribution went with Ray. Don't know. And speaking of which, Luis Diaz has a question about that. Hey guys, have you seen anything on tape that might suggest that is better to have Ray McLeod on the field and not James Washington? Regards from Mexico, Luis Diaz. Thanks for the email from Mexico, Luis. Look, we addressed this earlier in the show. I don't like to see Ray in the slot that much, to be honest with you, and we'll have to see if James may have injured something there. We'll have to see what's going to happen with Anthony Miller after the bye week there. But, yes, they can do better than Ray McLeod, all those snaps in the slot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was a very good segue, by the way, into the email. So good podcasting skills.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But it's hard to say. Did Washington have an issue? Because what was his snap count? I know he had one catch for 9 yards. You'd say 8 snaps, 9 snaps?
Eight.
That can't be by design. I mean, they were playing him early, so clearly they had some sort of plan for him on a day where you had the ball for 70-something plays to give Washington 8, 9 snaps. I mean, that cannot be the intent of the Steelers' game plan in this one. So he had to have been dealing with that groin issue.
Richard Jameson writes in, would you please confirm or correct two impressions I had during the Seahawks game? During the first quarter, the Seahawks defense seemed to have 7 or 8 men in the box, and they stuffed the Steelers. However, in the second quarter, the Seahawks seemed to back off to only 4 or 5 men in the box. Is this correct? If so, why did the Seahawks do that? I know later in the game they used more 11 personnel. I don't know if maybe that was maybe a stint where the Steelers went more. I can't remember if they went more 11 in there or not. I'll have to look back at that. Alex, do you recall when the Steelers started to run the ball? Because I think they were like one of 4 to start with. The Steelers on successful runs, and it slowly got better. But I'm having a problem recalling box counts saying that second quarter.
Yeah, I mean that sounds roughly accurate. A lot of times the box, if it's 8 men in the box, depending on what you're doing as an offense. Again, if you're going heavy, you're putting fullbacks and 265-pound tight ends in the game, then of course you're going to have 8-man boxes because you're bringing in heavier guys. You have more guys to block. The more you spread things out, the more you spread out the defense. So that's usually how. I mean, Terrell Edmonds, whenever he's in the box, usually it's because some team's playing, really, heavier personnel. So that's just what all defenses do. I mean, Seattle didn't have 4 guys in the box. They would have like 6 or 7 in the box. It's kind of a normal box count, not 4. But when you spread things out, usually you spread the defense out, and it lightens the box count. But again, it's the actual number. Are you +1 in terms of you have one more blocker than they have guys in the box? Are you even the same number of blockers and defenders? Are you -1? Do you have one fewer blocker than they have guy in the box? That's the most important number to look at for an offense because 8-man box overall does not always paint you the picture of can you block it up or not.
Richard also has another which is essentially a charting question. And Rich, keep this in mind. I've watched the game full one extra time since. I don't even. Alex, have you made it back through another time yet?
No, because I was done working at 4 a.m. last
Right.
night, so I went to bed to get sleep fast, as you say.
All right, so a lot of this we're our memory is only so good on some of these things here, so you're going to have to excuse some of this with only one rewatch and not having a charting back from Tom yet. But his second question is, during the Steelers touchdowns in the second quarter, Ben seemed to take a much higher percentage of snaps under center, and both the running game and the passing game seemed to click. They seem to abandon it for the rest of the game. Is this also correct? If so, why would the Steelers abandon what seems to be working? We're going to have to go back and look at the under center versus shotgun, and Tom has that charting and probably have that back later on today. So maybe Richard, if you remind us maybe to address that on the Wednesday show, maybe we'll have a little bit better answer. I don't want to answer not remembering what kind of the breakdown was under the center there, unless Alex remembers.
I do not. You be the king of the memory because you remember what the 2nd and 3 play in 1998 was in week 3 or something. That's your job, but I do not remember what the distribution was.
Yeah, I'll have this game memorized by Wednesday for sure, but I don't yet.
How dare you, Dave?
I know.
Shame.
Cole Sachs writes in, happy Victory Monday to you guys. First of all, is everyone okay? My heart dang near fell out of my chest, and I'm only 24. Get ready to age yourself a little bit, Cole. Well, welcome to the club. Secondly, Devin Bush needs to get down after that recovery. Lastly, Dave, when it comes to voidable years, if the player signs back with Pittsburgh, does it change the dead cap at all? It would have to be done prior to the void happening on that. So, a lot of these voidable year contracts that the Steelers have set up are set to void after 5 days after the Super Bowl. So if they don't work out some sort of an adjustment to that contract where those voidable years stay intact, then the dead money comes rushing forward. So odds are pretty good. I would say maybe Juju has the best chance of maybe working something out within the 5 days after the Super Bowl, or at least delaying the voidable date, which I suppose could be a possibility as well too. We'll see. But once that void date hits, if it's still intact, then that dead money comes rushing forward.
Right, yeah. Which is a good explanation for capologists, and if you're going hiking, as that guy joked earlier about the Bears.
Michael Galapo writes in about James Washington. You may have already discussed this during the podcast, but can you please tell me why Ray is getting targeted? Once again, Michael, let's look at the tape and see if we can pick up maybe if James got hurt at any point in there or what. But as Alex said, it felt like, at least Alex seems to remember most of those snaps coming early. So maybe he did tweak that groin a little bit. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think we've covered that pretty well.
Cody Bailey writes in, not really a question, but here's more of a comment. Cam Hayward is playing lights out, and I am here for it, he says. Also, I don't watch it all 22, so I don't get all the angles of the safeties, but I feel like I'm seeing Minkah make too many bad reads, too many missed tackles. I'm hoping this trend doesn't continue with his big contract in anticipation. Keep up the great work, guys. 3 minutes left in the game. LFG.
Oh, so he's running this mid-game. Okay. Yeah, no, I think, Minkah's not been his typical Minkah self. The missed tackles actually haven't been a big problem. I think Josh Carney's charting has his missed tackle rate about in line with last year, around 10%. So it's a pretty good number overall. Was there a first part of that question, or was it just on Minkah?
I think it was just on Minkah there.
Minkah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about Hayward playing lights out and all.
Oh, yeah, that's the comment. How about Chris Collinsworth? Call him like a slam dunk Hall of Fame or whatever the phrase was. I mean, I love Cam Hayward. He's a Hall of Famer to me. I don't think it's going to work out that way, but I would love it to be true. I would love to see Hayward join all the Hall of Fame alumni who were in Pittsburgh last night.
All right, I think that's all the emails that we got. Good jumping off point. Time to get to the tape, Alex. We'll talk a little bit more about recapping this game on Wednesday. Obviously, the Steelers on a bye. So, in the meantime, until Wednesday, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of the site. Boy, it seems like we've done a lot already, and we've still got a lot to do here. So it's going to be a busy Monday on SteelersDepot.com. Hope you stop by the site. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.